The cassowary is called the most dangerous bird in the world. In the entire Australian record, it has killed one person. One. That death happened in 1926, and the boy who died had struck the bird first and was running away when it caught him. The most dangerous bird on Earth has a body count of 1 from a century ago, in a fight it did not start. That reputation is not nothing. The cassowary can open a person up. But the gap between what this bird can do and what it actually does is the widest in the animal kingdom. And the reason for that gap is the best story this species has. The southern cassowary lives in the tropical rainforest of far north Queensland in Australia and across the water in New Guinea. It stands as tall as a grown man, close to 6 feet. A large female can weigh 165 pounds, about the weight of an adult man. The emu is taller. Nothing in Australia is heavier. Its feathers are coarse and black and hang more like hair than plumage. The neck is hard electric blue. 2 long red wattles hang from the throat. On top of the head sits a tall brown helmet, and each foot carries 3 toes, one of them tipped with a claw that can reach 5 inches, about the length of a kitchen knife blade. It cannot fly, and it never could. Everything this bird has it built on the ground. Here is what surprises almost everyone. This animal is a fruit eater, not a hunter. A bird that spends its whole life walking slowly through the forest looking for fallen fruit. The claw, the size, the reputation, all of it belongs to an animal whose main occupation is picking plums off the forest floor. The inner claw is the source of the legend. 5 inches of solid keratin on a leg driven by the largest muscles in the bird's body. Queensland's wildlife authorities describe the kick as strong enough to break bones. That is a government safety notice, not a documentary reaching for drama. It can also jump. From standing, a cassowary can launch about 7 feet into the air, high enough to bring that claw level with a person's chest. It runs hard through dense forest, and it swims well enough to cross rivers that would stop a dog. So the equipment is real. Every part of the reputation checks out on paper. And yet, almost every encounter ends with nothing at all. The bird walks away. In the wild, it is famously hard to find. This is an animal built like a weapon that spends nearly all of its time avoiding the fight. The helmet on its head is called a casque. It stands 5 to 7 inches tall, made of keratin, the same material as your fingernails, wrapped around a core that is spongy rather than solid bone. It keeps growing for the bird's whole life. Nobody is certain what it is for. That is not a storytelling trick. That is the honest state of the science. For a long time, the leading guess was armor, a crash helmet for pushing through thick vegetation. Another was that it advertises age and rank, since the oldest birds carry the tallest helmets. A third was that it helps the bird pick up the very low sounds other cassowaries make. Then in 2019, researchers pointed thermal cameras at 20 living cassowaries and found something else. The casque radiates heat. It warms up when the air is hot and shuts down when the air is cool. A large dark bird living on the equator has a serious problem shedding body heat, and the helmet appears to work as a window for that heat to escape. That is strong evidence, not a closed case. What matters is that the most recognizable feature on the most feared bird on Earth is still only partly understood. The cassowary makes a call that sits at the very bottom of what a human ear can register. The boom drops to around 32 hertz. The lowest note on a standard piano is about 27 hertz. This is among the lowest frequency sounds produced by any bird alive. Stand close to a booming cassowary and you do not really hear it. You feel it. It arrives in the chest before it arrives in the ear. Low sound passes through dense forest far better than high sound.
A bird that lives alone in thick rainforest and needs to be heard a long way off has every reason to speak in a register the forest cannot block. That boom belongs mostly to the breeding season, and what follows it is the part of cassowary life that almost nobody knows. The female lays 3 to 5 large green eggs, and then she leaves. She may go and breed again with another male. Everything after that belongs to the father. He sits on the eggs for about 50 days, barely eating, barely moving. When the striped chicks hatch, he raises them alone, guarding them for the better part of a year. Almost every serious cassowary encounter with a human involves a father with chicks. Understand that, and the reputation looks very different. This is not an animal hunting people. This is a single parent standing between a stranger and his children. Cassowaries have been recorded eating the fruit of more than 230 plant species. They swallow fruit whole. Their digestive system is gentle enough that the seeds come out undamaged, sitting in a ready-made pile of fertilizer. For more than 70 species of rainforest tree, the cassowary is the only animal left that can do this. The fruit is simply too big for anything else in that forest to swallow. Researchers have tracked seeds carried up to a mile from the parent tree. More than 70 kinds of tree depend on one bird to reproduce across distance. Take the cassowary out, and those trees do not vanish overnight. They stop spreading. They collect in shrinking pockets around their parents, and the forest becomes smaller, simpler, and poorer. Scientists call this a keystone species. In the wet tropics of Queensland, the cassowary is the clearest example on the continent. The forest that everyone photographs and protects is, in a real sense, a forest that this bird planted.
In 1999, a scientist working for Queensland's Park Service, Christopher Coffrin, collected every cassowary attack he could document. He found 221 incidents, 150 of them involving humans. The pattern in that data is the point of this entire film. 75% of the human attacks were by birds that people had been feeding. In most incidents, the bird was expecting food or asking for it, or defending food it already had. Only a small share involved a bird defending itself or its chicks. In most cases, the bird chased or charged and never actually kicked. Coffrin also noted that this behavior barely appeared in his study area before 1985. The dangerous cassowary is not an ancient fact of the rainforest. It is something people manufactured, one handout at a time. Feed a wild cassowary, and you teach a 6-foot animal with a 5-inch claw that humans are a food source, and the next person it meets pays for that lesson. The one modern death outside Australia fits the same shape. In 2019, a man in Florida was killed by a cassowary he kept himself, on his own property, in a country where the bird does not belong. Meanwhile, the real danger runs in the opposite direction. The southern cassowary is listed as endangered in Australia. Around 2010, researchers put the Australian population at roughly 2,500 birds. They are killed by cars, by dogs, and by the steady clearing of the forest they depend on. Cyclones strip the fruit trees bare and leave them starving. The bird that people are told to fear is losing, almost entirely to us. It has been part of human life here far longer than it has been a headline. First Nations peoples of the wet tropics have their own names for it. Gundoi in Jiru country, Gumbugan in Mamu country, Kutini and Wadtuni on Cape York. Not a monster, a neighbor, and in many stories a guardian of the forest. So the title is technically true and completely misleading. The most dangerous bird in the world is a fruit-eating single father who plants a rainforest and who has killed one person in Australia in 100 years, in a fight he did not start. The danger was never really in the bird. It was in what people taught it. If you have ever been close to a cassowary, or if there is another animal whose reputation you think is completely wrong, tell me in the comments. I read them. Every creature you met today is someone's parent, someone's mate, someone's kin. That is the whole story in the end. Look after the ones who are yours. I will see you next time. From Lupinski Wildscape, where nature tells its story.